It's been a while, but a lot has happened. A whole Super Bowl has happened. NBA trade deadline has passed, but there's a lot of stuff for us to discuss on this week's episode of the City of Good Sports. I'm your host, Richard Miller. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I'll be remiss not to talk about the most important sporting event of the past week, which was obviously the Super Bowl. An all-time great performance by that Seahawks defense. Kenneth Walker ended up winning the MVP. To me, I think that entire defensive unit should have been the MVP. Phenomenal halftime show, great set design, great messaging. And, it's an okay game. If you stayed awake to watch the entire game, you would know that there actually were some touchdowns. It ended up being a 29-13 game, but no one scored a single touchdown until the fourth quarter. As a matter of fact, the Patriots were shut out for the first three quarters. A lot of Drake May criticism. It's his second year. A lot of Will Campbell criticism, very valid. But it really feels like it should have been our year. So the Bills offseason is going to kick off pretty soon. Bills just made their first official move of the offseason, which was inking Alec Anderson to a 1-year, $3 million deal. And I like it. He's a good swing tackle for us. He's a good depth piece. He could really play anywhere on the line. So I think that's a good deal. There are a lot of concerns about the Bills' cap space, and we have a lot of people that are making a lot of money. One name you see floating around a lot is Dawson Knox. A lot of people are suggesting that Dawson Knox will be cut this offseason. Dawson Knox makes a lot of money. He makes around $16 million. Josh Palmer's another one. We just inked him to a 3-year, $36 million deal last offseason. He's on year 2 of that. Curtis Samuel's making a little less than $10 million. He's making around $9.6 million. Taron Johnson, another guy, making $10 million. Even Ed Oliver's making $23 million. So we could have some of these people that are long-term Bills that are not on the roster next year, whether they move them around via cutting them or trading them for a late-round pick, or maybe if they could center a deal with them to get a game-changing player like a Max Crosby, like a Justin Jefferson, but they have to restructure this cap a lot. And you save more money. You don't take on dead money if it's after the June 1st designation. So a lot of these players will probably be cut after June 1st. That's probably a while from now. So it's hard to think about it. Free agency officially starts on March 11th, and the draft is on April 23rd. I'm going to be looking at this draft thoroughly. I'm going to make a lot of mock drafts between now and April 23rd. There's a lot of players I like. There's a lot of people that think we should get a receiver first round. So I'm looking into Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, Chris Brazzell, maybe Jordan Tyson or Cornell Tate if they fall, and all these potential receiver prospects that could be the Bills' number 1 receiver next year. I'm also going to be looking at some safety prospects to pair along Cole Bishop, some linebackers, some defensive ends. I'm going to be looking thoroughly at the prospects that I feel like would be a good fit in this Bills roster, who I think would be a good fit for this new Jim Leonard defense, and who I think could really be playmakers and excel in this offense. This pretty much the same, but also new look because it's a new coach, Joe Brady head coached offense. Players that I feel could play well with Josh Allen. I'm going to be discussing this a lot over the next couple of weeks leading up to the offseason, and I'm going to compare it to the moves they officially make. They might age well, they might age poorly, but that's kind of what you have to take on the chin as a sports journalist. Now, speaking of the draft, this upcoming NBA draft is one of the most talented ever. We have some of the greatest prospects we've ever seen. AJ DeBansa, Cameron Boozer, Darryn Peterson, who I have to talk about, Mikel Brown, Darius Cuff Jr., Kingston Flemings, Keaton Wagler. We have multiple college freshmen that have scored over 40 points this year. It's truly just a ridiculous draft class. And because of this, the NBA has announced new anti-tanking measurements. So Adam Silver officially informed all 30 NBA GMs that starting next year, there will be anti-tanking measurements. Among these include flattened odds for all lottery teams. This lottery is now extended to include all of the play-in teams. A team can't pick top 4 after making the conference finals. This is a little bit of a shot at the Pacers, if I'm being honest. Also, first-round picks can only be protected if they're top 4 or top 14. This applies to trades. Lottery odds are based on 2-year records. Again, a little bit of a shot at the Pacers. And they are also no longer allowing a team to pick top 4 in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. There's a lot to discuss here. This kind of seems like something you would see in my league in 2K and immediately veto. But maybe it will incentivize not tanking and load management and teams just sitting out their worst players. If you look at the teams with the 2 best records in the NBA right now, it's the Detroit Pistons and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Detroit Pistons, we all know, just a couple of years ago lost 27 games in a row. They were really bad, and they weren't even really tanking. They were just that bad. They were still playing Cade Cunningham in all these games. They were still playing Asar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart. They were just that bad. Oklahoma City Thunder did do a little bit of tanking, and they've stocked up. They have a ton of picks. If you remember, before the Thunder were this quote-unquote juggernaut, they were one of the worst teams in the NBA. And now let's discuss the players that teams are potentially tanking for. Now, in my opinion, the most talented player in this draft class from a basketball perspective is Darryn Peterson. Darryn Peterson is a 3-level scorer and a matchup nightmare. He's 6'5". He fits perfectly into the mold of modern shooting guards. I could see him being in that tier with Anthony Edwards and Donovan Mitchell because he's just that good. He has a killer mid-range game. He's averaging 20 points a game on 43% from beyond the arc. He could finish around the rim. He's a creative finisher. The only problem is he's already earned the nickname DNP or DN Peterson in college because he consistently misses games. And not only does he miss games, he checks himself out of games. He had 23 points in around 18 minutes in the recent game against Oklahoma State. And immediately after hitting a 3, he turns to Coach Bill Self and checks himself out of the game. And this is just a concerning pattern. And it's something that I think NBA GMs are certainly watching for. Now, you've had people look at instances like Shaedon Sharpe, where he didn't play a single college game. And you're like, okay, maybe this is a little overblown. But it's concerning. It is a little bit concerning. Beyond Darryn Peterson, you have pretty much a consensus top 3, which also consists of AJ Dybantsa. AJ Dybantsa is a guy that I've been high on for years. When he was in high school, he's a 6'8" guard. He's also someone I would consider to be a 3-level scorer. He has athleticism. He has a hezzy game, a tween game. He's just a beautiful bucket getter. He reminds me a little bit of Shea or even Tracy McGrady. He does hunt for fouls a lot. He is playing at BYU, but BYU is a big school this year. They're in the Big 12. They're in the Big 12 with Kansas. He had a record-setting $7 million NIL deal to sign with BYU. The Mormons have money. But AJ Dybantsa just fits perfectly into the modern NBA, in my opinion. So I think he's received his fair share of criticisms, but there's no way I don't see AJ Dybantsa being at least a all-star level NBA player. Then we have Cam Boozer. If Tim Duncan wasn't already called the big fundamental, I would call him the big fundamental. He's not the flashiest. He doesn't jump the highest. His athleticism doesn't scream at you. But this guy has an excellent back-to-basket game. He can score from the three, and he just knows how to get it done. He's an excellent rebounder. He's cut from the Carlos Boozer club, honestly. Beyond the top three, you also have a guy that's pretty consensusly being mocked at number 4 in Caleb Wilson out of UNC. This is a 6'10 forward with a ton of athleticism. I'm talking about jump out of the gym athleticism, insane defensive pedigree, shaky jump shot. He's in the 20s on the year, I believe, at 26%. But that's just not his player. And if you want to mold him into a shooter, I'm sure there's potential there. But his play style doesn't revolve around shooting. Now you have some guards in this class that can score. Darius Acuff Jr. from Arkansas, Calipari guard. Some defensive concerns, but this guy could put the ball in the hoop. And he's doing it at a good efficiency too. He's averaging 21 and 6 on 50 and 43 shooting splits. I believe 78 from the line. And I don't care what concerns you have on defense. That offensive production is good enough to at least get you drafted within the top 7. Now, this is a great year, and there's concerns about his height. He's really like 6'1", 6'2", probably 6'2", which that's tall for regular people standards, but for basketball, it's on the shorter end. You also have a 6'4" guard with a little bit less efficiency, but the same just excellent shooting form in Mikal Brown Jr. out of Louisville. He had a 45-point game against NC State. This guy has the potential to be an elite guard at the NBA level. Kingston Fleming's another one. Just a bunch of guards that could score. Keaton Wagler, he's playing in a system alongside what they call the Eastern Bloc in Illinois. He's like a 6'6" guard. He could score too. You have a great freshman class this year, one of the best ever. And that's why Adam Silver has made this effort, this anti-tanking effort. But I don't even feel like teams are tanking that much. The Bucks, who would have every reason to tank, there's even all we heard around the trade deadline was them trading Giannis. They got Cam Thomas, and they took a flyer on Ousmane Dieng out of OKC, and all of a sudden they're competitive again. They're making a push for the play-in for the playoffs once they get Giannis back. And it's kind of weirdly exciting looking at this Bucks young core. Ryan Rollins, they're just making stuff out of nothing. People have bad situations. They're being wrote off by the former teams. Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr., and now Ousmane Dieng, and Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas got flat out waived despite giving teams 40 balls just a couple of years ago. And they have created a pretty promising young core out of basically scraps. And now they have their first round pick for the first time in a while now. And when everyone was trying to force Giannis out the door, we now see that the Bucks are potentially bringing a team that could be competitive around Giannis. They just needed some time. Kings are bad, but it's because they have a bad roster. They messed up their roster construction fully. The Hawks have the Pelicans pick, so there's no reason for the Pelicans to be bad other than injuries and poor performance on the court. The Nets are flat out bad. They just don't have the roster to be good. Washington Wizards acquired Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and I guess there's been some load management there, but at the end of the day, they're the Washington Wizards. They're still bad. They have been bad for the past couple of years. The Jazz just acquired Jaren Jackson, so it's clear that they think they have something and want to win. Otherwise, they would have moved Lauri Markkanen. And the Hornets have been super competitive this year, and Concanepoulos is having one of the best rookie seasons ever. So I haven't even felt like the tanking has been that extreme this year. Bulls made a lot of moves at the deadline. Let's talk about the deadline, and let's talk about this cluster of guards that the Bulls have. So the Bulls walked into this trade deadline with pretty much a 4-guard rotation of Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, and Trey Jones. And they walked out of it with Josh Giddey, Trey Jones, Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, Rob Dillingham, and Jaden Ivey. And it's essentially 6 point guards competing for 2 starting spots. How these minutes stagger, I still have yet to see it play out. Jaden Ivey is getting DNPs. He looks like his confidence is completely depleted. And that's honestly a sad story there, because if you saw Jaden Ivey at Purdue and knew what type of player he could have been, but now this guy is getting DNPs and he's doing interviews where he says he's not the J.I. he used to be and that version of me is dead. And he really just needs an enhanced role, and he's just never got it. He's been riddled with injuries. That story is sad. Their major news revolving around the Bulls and their busy deadline is the fact that they finally moved Vucevic. And not only did they move him, they moved him to the Boston Celtics, who were in need of a starting center. And now Vucevic has received a lot of criticism in the past couple of years. We've been wondering when and where he'll be moved. There's been a lot of concerns about his lack of effort on the defensive end. He obviously is still a very gifted offensive center. But now that he's on the Boston Celtics, there is a much brighter light being shined upon him. And it'll be interesting to see how he performs come playoff time, what he could do for that team. Because the Celtics fan base is a very passionate one and a very storied one. And they do believe that they have finals expectations this year, especially if they are able to get Tatum back. But they are still one of the best teams in the league, even without Tatum, because that's just how good of a coach Mazzulla is and how good of a system they have there. Speaking of former Celtics, Kristaps Porzingis got traded to from the Hawks to the Warriors. Butler is pretty much shut out for the year. He's not pretty much. He got moved for Kuminga and Hield. Kuminga, another guy we were wondering when he'll finally get moved. A little bit of a pick-me-up story. Jose Alvarado got traded to his hometown team of the New York Knicks. I love this move. He actually had some pretty good performances so far, and he's a guy that really brings some intensity and pressure. There's concerns about him and Brunson playing together because they're both on the shorter end, and they do have a pretty good guard rotation. But I'm excited for that one. Jared McCain, the fact that the Sixers gave up on him so fast and sent him to the Thunder really didn't need another guy, and now Jared McCain is really starting to come into his own, really starting to find his role back. He had an excellent rookie season. He had an injury. He'd been struggling this season, buried in the rotation a little bit, and he's right back to where he was his rookie year. And I think Daryl Morey will end up regretting that move a lot. Let's talk about the biggest move of the trade deadline, though. James Harden to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, everyone talks about honeymoon Harden and the fact that he never really stays with the team long. And he is nearing the end of his career. But he's still James Harden. And he has had some good highs for this Cleveland team. If you looked at the alley-oop from him to Donovan Mitchell, it's one of the plays of the year. And he's performing well. Again, honeymoon Harden is a great player. He has yet to break his playoff stigma of being a choker. He got traded for Darius Garland. Darius Garland was a young guard who was a part of the Cavs for a while. And that's not exactly the most seamless transition, although it's working pretty well for them now, but we have to see if this is a move that could make Cleveland into contenders. They already have an expectation that they could win the East very well. There's been changes in their fifth starter. A lot of people like Jalen Tyson. I think Jalen Tyson's a very good player. They've started Dean Wade. But we have to see how Harden plays come playoff time. And if this could be the team that he finally does it with, That would be pretty interesting. That would be something that I don't think much people saw coming. I think the James Harden to the Cavs move was a very unexpected one. The Clippers moving Harden, and they moved Zubac for Mathurin. Mathurin had a great game against the Denver Nuggets, and he's looking to be a pretty good scorer in his enhanced role with the Clippers. Again, he's a guy that's pretty inconsistent, but when he's hot, he's hot. And it's interesting to see how they retooled the roster. But they kept Kawhi. Kawhi is having a great year this year. He had a great All-Star game performance. So we'll see. But he said he doesn't think the Clippers have a real shot at contending. Out of his mouth, he said that. So it'll be interesting to see how the Clippers retool the roster. But it was a busy trade deadline. It wasn't the craziest. There wasn't like no earth-shattering trades, but there were a lot of moves that were made, a lot of wheeling and dealing, per usual. And now we sit and wonder who will make the NBA Finals this year, especially out of the East. I think we know the select few teams that could do it out of the West. I think the Thunder are still the favorites, especially after the McCain trade. I do think Denver still has a very real chance of winning it. They have dealt with injuries all season. As of right now, it's currently Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson, who's turned into a pretty dang good player, are both out with hamstring injuries. Spurs are fully healthy, and they've shown that they could beat the Thunder. I think the Spurs have a shot. There's no reason for me to believe they don't. Wolves adding Ayo Dosunmu certainly enhances the roster. I think they still have a good shot of making the finals. I would probably put them at the third highest odds out of the West. Maybe fourth. I think them and the Spurs are pretty neck and neck. The Rockets team chemistry, we'll see how that takes a fall with the whole KD burner account situation. I don't know if that account, Get Off My Blankerson, was confirmed to be him, but there was a lot of disparaging stuff said about Jabari Smith and Alperen Şengün in these supposed Twitter group chats where KD was using a burner account to talk trash about his former teammates. But beyond that, I just haven't been a huge believer in the Rockets as a team. I find it hard to believe in the Lakers too, maybe, but I don't think they did enough to really enhance the roster. Being able to get Luke Kennard out of Gabe Vincent is an incredible flip, but I still don't feel like they really have enough. On the Eastern Conference side of things, the Pistons are rolling. The Pistons are red hot. They're coming off of a huge win against the Knicks. And I think they're going to be a tough matchup for the Knicks because I think they have revenge on their mind. The Knicks are also very well a finals contender team. Obviously, we still have the Harden Cavs too, who obviously want to win the title. The Celtics, who are hoping to get Tatum back from his Achilles injury. So there are teams that could potentially make it out of the East. I do think the winner of the NBA Finals will be from the Western Conference this year. I think it's kind of like the NFC in football. I think they're just more stacked. It's just a more competitive, more talented conference. As far as the East, I don't really see anyone from the Raptors or below making the finals. A lot of people like the Sixers. That was before the McCain trade and the PG suspension. There's just some questions there. I can't fully buy into them. I can't fully buy into Embiid staying healthy for a full postseason. So I think there are really 8 teams, 4 on both sides, that could potentially make the finals this year. That concludes today's episode of the City of Good Sports. I'll be back soon to talk about the Red Hot Sabres, more about the NBA season and the draft, as well as the NFL draft and the future for the Buffalo Bills. Thank you so much. I've been Richard Miller.